Oh, nice.
Wow.
Julius is getting fancy with the post-production.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Cinema. We are your hosts, Julius Freeman, James Callahan, and Sean Malone. How are you guys doing tonight?
How's it going?
Doing great. Nice pick, James.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Really
I have something to
excited
talk
to
about.
be here.
Yeah. I decided to change it up a little bit with the intro because, as James mentioned, as we talked about last week, actually, it was the 35th anniversary, right? 35th anniversary of the 30th anniversary of the release of Silence of the Lambs. So we decided to watch the film and talk about it tonight. If you guys have comments, questions, please, don't be shy to leave a comment. Hit the like button, subscribe. Actually, that reminds me. If for those of you who have been following us and watching our show, like either live or after the fact, we're going to be moving the channel to a new channel called Talking Cinema. There's going to be the Talking Cinema YouTube channel. Next week, I will provide the link to the channel because I'm still working out the kinks for the new channel, adding pictures and whatnot. So next week I'll make it more official, and then hopefully you guys can find it. It's Talking_Cinema on YouTube. Find the channel, subscribe to it, and they'll be just strictly for cinematic stuff. So there'll be a lot more videos that we're going to be producing. That's going to be added to that video, not just the live stream. So watch out for that. March will be the official launch, so that's when we officially move it to the new channel in March. So watch out for that. And so without further ado, since this was James' pick, I'm gonna hand over the hosting duties to him. And so James, take it away.
Right on. So the movie is Silence of the Lambs. It came out February 14th, 1991, Valentine's Day. I think that's like a brilliant piece of marketing on their part, counter programming. It won Best Picture at the Oscars. It was one of the biggest hits of that year, and has gone on to become a huge, iconic, classic film. I thought it would be a great time to talk about it because of its anniversary. And I didn't realize at the time that Sean hadn't seen it. So I'm going to start with Sean and find out what you thought.
All right, let's do it.
Gosh. Gee Willikers. What did I think?
Overall thoughts, Sean. Overall thoughts.
Yeah, so I've heard a lot about this movie over the years. It's constantly referenced as a sort of example for innovative cinematography and editing and directorial work. So its reputation preceded it. Upon finally watching it, I kind of realized or was reminded of why I had avoided it for so long, which is basically that it's not my cup of tea. It's pretty, I don't know if gruesome is the right word. It's disturbing. It's upsetting and disturbing. But regardless of it being upsetting and disturbing and not being my particular cup of tea, I did appreciate the filmmaking. Obviously, it's very well done. I particularly enjoyed the camera work and how Jonathan Demme and Tak Fujimoto, as cinematographer, used a lot of what they called subjective camera and point of view shots, especially with Clarice and kind of seeing the world through her eyes. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in there about her being a woman, sometimes moving around in a man's world, so to speak, and she's always getting those kind of those male gazes, and she's always getting she's always kind of getting glanced over and kind of underestimated and all those kinds of things. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Love the performances, especially Sir Anthony Hopkins, who was just brilliant in the movie. I mean, what else can you say? And Jodie Foster too. She's actually one of my favorite actors. Pretty much anything I see her in, whether it's, Taxi Driver or Anna and the King, which are completely different types of roles for her, or this role where she kind of plays this nearly newly minted FBI agent, still a student. You kind of have this, she's playing this kind of, there's a naivete or an inexperience aspect to her character that's that she does really well. So yeah, a really well-made movie. We can talk more about, maybe compare it to some other movies and maybe some of the things I found upsetting about it.
Definitely.
Those are my overall thoughts, I think.
Before I move on to Julius, I do want to say I love that you pointed out the point of view shots and the the direct to camera performances. It's something that struck me a lot as over the years, because when I first saw this movie, I loved it, but I didn't really notice any of the filmmaking. But it was a movie I returned to on a regular basis, and it was one of the first movies where I realized that there's a director who made a choice to have the actor speak directly to camera. And it made me wonder why it was having the effect on me that it was. And not just, mainly in scenes where she's very vulnerable, but also to rack up the, the vulnerability and the tension through that. And it was something I thought about a lot watching it this time, kind of through your eyes, that I figured you would really appreciate the technique behind the cinematography, as well as the editing and the overall filmmaking. So yeah, we'll talk more about it as we go along, but it's an interesting choice that the director decided to do that. And it's something I really appreciate about the film. Makes it very
sure. It seems like he and his cinematographer really developed that together, because Tak Fujimoto worked with him all the way back to the Roger Corman films that Jonathan Demme did, and continued to work with Jonathan Demme, I think, until his death. So yeah, I would love to have an entire thread of the conversation talking about subjective camera, and I would love to point out some shots in particular that had a profound impact on me.
Yeah, I would love to do that. But before we do that, I do want to get Julius's just overall thoughts and impressions.
I loved it. I loved it the first time I watched it years ago when I was taking film school at OCC. We had watched it for class, and we broke down the film scene by scene. And the way the instructor broke it down was what made me appreciate the film even more. So upon watching it recently last night, it still holds up. It still seems fresh. It's still sorry, my little baby's crying over there. I don't know. I think she saw Buffalo Bill and she got scared. But I actually loved the aspects of the dynamic between Hannibal Lecter and Clarice, and not just that dynamic, but also her relationships with the other males characters in the film, like the FBI agent who recruited her, and then her friends who helped her out with the clue. And you get to within that short span, you get to see who Clarice is, and you find out you end up liking Clarice because she's very humble, down to earth, and you kind of appreciate the relationship that she builds with Hannibal, the cannibal, and how she was able to almost treat him like a human being to the point where he actually does decide to help her out and likes her so much that he's willing to spare her life. But overall, we could talk more details as the show goes on. But overall, I do love that Jonathan Demme did a lot of close-ups. I noticed that this time around, I was like, wow, actually, now that I think about it, his style was always like right here, boom, right here, right there, and in certain scenes too, in certain dialogue scenes, and it's very effective. Not many directors do that nowadays, and I kind of wish that they do because I think that those kind of scenes really give an oomph to movies like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
But yeah, the directing was fantastic. The writing was superb. The story overall was just absolutely flawless. Like there was no dead, no dead space per se. It was always from beginning to end. You get your story, and by the end of it, you're like, wow, I'm kind of sorry it's ending, and I wish there was a little bit more. But it's just perfect. It's one of those movies that's just right on the money. So I love it. It's timeless. I think this movie will. I think 20 years down the line, people will still be talking about how great this film is, and it is a great film. I think a lot of cinema lovers should put this on the list, as even though it's maybe like Sean mentioned, it's not to his taste. It can still appreciate what it offers in the world of cinema.
Yeah, it's a movie that that has had just like a really strong legacy, and I remember it having a legacy like even at the time I saw it. I was actually thinking about this last night before I watched it this time, and the first time I saw the movie, I think was because I saw a Simpsons reference, and I didn't understand it, and I think my mom was like, "Oh, that's from Silence of the Lambs," and I was like, "Oh, I should seek that movie out." And so I watched it at like an age I was probably way too young to watch, but it had a huge impression on me. And I never found it necessarily scary, but it's the thing I've come back to like over the years, that like there are just certain kinds of movies like Jaws or like Star Wars, where you're just like, everything about this film is like efficient to like maximum effect. Like, maybe the people involved, like, depending on like Chinatown, I think is another example of a movie I can think of. Like it's kind of an outlier in Roman Polanski's filmography, and Silence of the Lambs very much is an outlier in Demme's filmography. I don't think he ever made another like serial killer film. But it's one of those movies where like everything came together the way that it was supposed to. Everyone was working at the top of their game. Jodie Foster was the right actress at the right time for the right role. Anthony Hopkins, who was about to give up on his career, like, he got this shot, and, neither of them were the director's first choice. Apparently the first choice was Michelle Pfeiffer and Sean Connery. And they turned weird, right?
Sean Connery.
It's weird to imagine anybody else in these roles. And it's another thing I've also appreciated over the years, is that these are two of the best performances I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And like when they're together on screen, it is some of like the most iconic scenes in movie history. And it's incredible how much it dominates the movie, because they're only on screen together in 4 scenes. And Hannibal is only in the movie for 25 minutes. And yet he still won a Best Actor Oscar, and he's still considered, it's one of the most iconic characters in history. It's just because he dominates the movie so much that it feels like he's always there, even when he's not, It's very interesting, but
I wanted to mention, you mentioned a Simpsons reference, and I'm a huge 30 Rock fan. I'm obsessed with that show, and I've seen it over and over and over. But I'm always happy when I get a new 30 Rock joke because of a new pop culture knowledge.
Right.
And there's this episode where Jack, played by Alec Baldwin, starts talking to Kenneth the Page, and he's trying to get into his head. And he's like, with your Southern accent, you got fried bologna all over you. And then he goes, you made it all the way to the NBC. And I never understood why Alec Baldwin did it in that voice or whatever. I was like, okay, kind of a weird choice, but it works. And then seeing this movie when he's all the way to the FBI, and I was like, I get it now.
Right.
So anytime you watch a movie like this, you're like, oh, all those references I now understand,
Oh yeah. It's all over the place. I mean, it's not only do I think it's probably easily one of the most influential movies of like since it came out. But yeah, it's like it's been referenced in everything, like every comedy show, every sitcom, spoof, whatever. Like it's just it was a movie that like I absorbed it through references before I finally saw it, and then I put all the pieces together, and I was like, this is one of the most amazing movies I'd ever seen. And it remains that. I'm like surprised every time I watch it just how effective it is. It seems kind of tame by today's standards, and which is I don't know. It's weird because like I remember when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a pretty gruesome movie. But I think years of watching like HBO and like Walking Dead and stuff is just
the Saw movies. You can't forget the Saw movies.
I feel so desensitized that I'm watching Silence of the Lambs and I'm like, I'm surprised this didn't get a PG-13. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of how effective the filmmaking is and just how successful Demme is at just racking up the tension and how disturbing everything is and how he dishes it out little by little, how we get to know Buffalo Bill, like just piece by piece until we finally are like led into his lair in this amazing, like, one shot tracking shot that tracks like through his entire house, his bedroom, sees him like sewing, and then follows it along until it gets to his, the underground basement with the well. And it's just like, you hear the character screaming and it's like, I don't know. It's just so well done. I know where it's going every time I watch it.
All-American Girl.
Yeah. Interesting song choice.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting song choice because it truly, she is truly the All-American Girl. She's the daughter of a senator, so it's it was a great choice by Demme to pick that song. Of course, you can't go wrong with Tom Petty. I mean, Tom Petty's
for sure.
national treasure in my opinion. So it was a good choice. But I agree with you, James. It's a film that definitely like Star Wars and Back to the Future. It's become this phenomenon where people reference it, and like you said, like you mentioned, in every show and the spoof movie and whatnot. It's just a solid story because it's not only is about a woman capturing a serial killer, it's also about her own insecurities that she has to deal with. Her dealing with the death of her father, coming to terms with that, her needing to save this girl because she wants to, essentially to silence the lambs that she keeps hearing in her nightmares. And Hannibal Lecter being able to help her with that, even though he's this freaking maniacal monster, sympathizes with her and actually, helps her out, gets her rid of that insecurity so she could become, like in the end of the movie when she becomes an FBI agent, she's complete. She's a completed woman, a character. I shouldn't say woman, a completed character by the end of the film. And I think that's what a lot of people enjoy. Everyone enjoys a good underdog story. And that's what this is. This is an underdog story, but it's not blatant. It's subtle.
Yeah, it's very
subtle. Cheer her
subtle.
on. You like her. She's not annoying. She's, you root for her all the way through. And then you're so proud of her when she is the only one who figures things out that other FBI agents can't figure out. Like for instance, that scene where she, checks out the woman's bedroom, and she finds the secret compartment in the little music box, which is like, she was once a girl. She herself had her own little secret compartment, so she had to dig deep into to find the connections that the I guess the male characters missed in the film. So it's just fantastic. It's one of those movies you watch and you study and you dissect, and you want to reach to that same level of a skill set that these filmmakers and actors did during this time. Sean, any other other than the gruesomeness of it, which we'll probably get more into, is there anything else that cops, since this is your first time watching it, what was the one thing that did impress you the most, other than the crazy stuff
that impressed me the most?
Yeah, that you're like, wow, that's actually was pretty good. That was pretty cool. Like, oh, that was really good. I think
that. Yeah, the POV camera, the subjective camera, in particular, I guess now is as good a time as any to talk about that. But like that first shot where she's walking down to see Hannibal, and we haven't met him yet, and we sort of get that slow dolly move. And then he's just standing there, and like
it moves like right into his eye line. It's
perfectly. He's just standing perfectly erect, and he's just glaring at her. And James is right. Like, I think James said this, but maybe it was Julius. But it's dull. Like, there's so much tension in the movie. Yeah, there it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What a creepy. So I read that Hopkins was actually thought of by Demme because he had seen Elephant Man, and based on Hopkins' performance in Elephant Man, Demme wanted him to play this role, and Hopkins said, "Yeah, but my character in that movie was a good man. Like how did that connect to this?" And Demme said something along the lines of, "Hannibal's a good man too. He's just I don't know if he said misunderstood or."
I think he said that. That
I wouldn't call Hannibal Lecter misunderstood. That's for sure.
Well, I think he said something along the lines of that Hannibal thinks he's a good person, or he thinks he's right, or he thinks he's a good man, something along those lines.
Yeah, it was something like he saw good in the character, but he had gone awry somewhere, and that was another thing I encountered with Demme, is that he said he always tries to not judge his characters and actually be a friend to his characters and convey that non-judgment to the audience. And that's the way he's able to convey the humanity of the character to the audience. I
was just going to say that's definitely something that is a big part of his work. I haven't seen all of his films, but it's something that I noticed like over the years, is that he brings a level of humanity to his characters that is just kind of different than other directors. And it doesn't surprise me watching Silence of the Lambs that you get so invested in these characters. Even Buffalo Bill has shreds of humanity to him, which I think makes him all the more scary. When you start to when you recognize things in a character that who are to the outside world are perceived as a monster. But it's as Hannibal was saying, he wants to transform. He wants to become something else. He hates himself so much that he's, this is his cause. And once he transforms, he thinks he will be something that he and the outside world could love, basically. And bringing that, what I love. Exactly. And it's interesting that when you see that from Buffalo Bill's perspective, that he's, he thinks what he's doing is right, I guess. It adds to how effective the film is, and why the characters don't feel at least the villains of the film, they don't feel like just boogeymen,
Well, it's interesting that Buffalo Bill's trying to resolve something about himself, try to resolve this conflict within himself. And Clarice is trying to do the same thing, according to Hannibal Lecter, that she's trying to silence the lambs. So everyone has this sort of internal problem that they're trying to solve,
And even right. Hannibal Lecter had his own. He wanted his view. That was what he wanted. Yeah. He wanted to view. He wanted to feel like a free man again. And of course, that was never gonna happen. And so, each character had their own, I guess, thing to deal with. It's just that, you know, Clarice was the only one that was on the right path, quote unquote.
I mean, in the end, the only character that got what they wanted was Hannibal. When you think about it, I mean, he got to escape, which is pretty great for him.
That's true. That's what I'll say that Clarice also got what she wanted to. I think she got the Silence of the Lambs. I think she was able to.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think the way I read it is that she traded one monster for another. That's the way I read the ending. That's why she sits there on the phone. She realizes I basically let you go to catch the guy that just built my reputation. That was the sacrifice.
I agree with James in how could the lambs be silenced with Hannibal out there free in the world? I found his question to be rhetorical and sort of prodding.
Yeah.
But it's subject to interpretation, obviously.
Definitely. But I mean, going back to
there was that one sound design cue where you heard the and then it suddenly went silent. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know what? That's actually a really interesting point. I was thinking about this while watching the film this time. And the flashbacks in the movie have always kind of stuck out to me as I like how they add something to the character and the mood, but they do feel very unnecessary. But then I thought it was interesting that Demme chose to show these very little, these little flashbacks that are without dialogue. They're just more about filling in character for Clarice. But the scene where she talks about her experience with her father and then seeing the lambs, there's no flashback there. Yet it's such a vivid telling, and the performance is so convincing that you feel like you see it. You almost remember it with her. And that's, I think, says so much about her performance, which I think you know, in a movie that has like two of the greatest performances of all time, I actually like Foster's performance more than Anthony Hopkins. Like I love the, you know, the character that he creates, and you know, he's got all the best lines, he's got all the best scenes, but she's the one that feels like a real character with a real arc. And as I get older, I'm more and more impressed with her performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially considering how young she was at the time.
Yeah, 29, and she won her second Oscar for this film.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh man, I'm getting up there in age, like, because I was watching the movie, I was like, wow, she was so young here, but it was like that wasn't that long ago. it was 30 years ago. So yeah,
30 years,
yeah, long ago.
James,
so she'd already
wasn't her first Oscar for Freaky Friday?
I think it was, Sean. Yes, I believe it was. Yes, she does such a great job that she was nominated for it.
Did you guys ever see that movie? That it's like an old Disney movie called Freaky Friday. It's like a body switch movie, and
I saw the remake.
I saw the remake. I haven't seen the original.
Well, the original. I
was trying to think of the musical, the kids movie she made in the 70s, like Bugsy Malone or something like that. I don't know. She was in a lot of goofy movies in the 70s, and then Taxi Driver kind of changed that for her a little bit, but I believe the movie she won her first Oscar for was The Accused, which I haven't seen.
Oh gosh, that movie.
Yeah, it's a movie I've never really wanted to sit through.
Let's just say it's a tough film to sit through.
Yeah,
and I sat through it, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. Well, by the way, guys, we're not going to cover that movie. We're never going to cover that movie because it's too heavy. It would be too rough. It'd be too rough.
Don't limit us, man. We might do like 5,000 episodes and then finally be like, all right, we have nothing left. It's The Accused.
No, I can't sit through it again. It's too much. It's too much.
Well, you know, for me, this movie kind of made me. Speaking of that, this movie kind of made me pine for one of my favorite police procedural movies, which is The Fugitive.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, not that they're like extremely similar movies, but I don't know. That was, for some reason, that was the movie I thought of as I was watching this film.
You know, I miss a time where we had genre films like in the early 90s that were of that caliber, like Unforgiven, you know, and in Heat, and I'm blanking on some others, but yeah, there was a lot of like really great genre films in the 90s, and like they were very successful movies.
It's funny because the term genre film is often thrown out as like a pejorative thing. Yeah. Like, oh, this is like, I remember when The Town came out, the Ben Affleck movie, which I was really impressed by. It was like a breakout performance for Jeremy Renner. The movie was I thought it was a really good movie. And then reading the reviews, it was like, oh, this is a genre piece and nothing too, you know, it's just like, some of the best movies of all time are genre movies.
It's the dirty secret. Yeah,
that's why I hate critics.
That's I think the dirty secret of film and like mainstream film is that like, yeah, when you're a cinephile or you're a critic or you're part of the academy, you want to highlight films that are important, you know, quote unquote important. Whereas like films that, you know, like Silence of the Lambs that are rooted much more in genre, I think are actually harder movies to make, because if everything is not properly calibrated, none of it works. You know, you end up with a movie like, have you guys seen the new Denzel Washington film, The Little Things?
No.
It just premiered on HBO Max. It was meant for theaters. It has Jared Leto in it and Rami Malek, you know, 3 Oscar winners in this, you know, serial killer movie, and it's just a drag to watch. It's so derivative, it's boring. You know, and it's like all this talent was involved, and it just, it didn't work. And
I read that movie was actually 20 or 30 years in the making, that the script was like 30 years old, basically. Maybe that's why it feels familiar.
It feels like somebody wrote it right after watching Seven. Like, because spoiler alert, it has kind of a third act that's similar to Seven. And it also has some like references to Silence of the Lambs and like other stuff in it. It's not great.
My opinion with genre films is they have to be done. You have to really know the genre well if you're going to make a genre film, but and then you have to bring something fresh or new to it. Like,
elevate it to a little bit.
Yeah, I could give examples, but I won't.
No, give me an example, please.
Well, yeah, it always goes back to my taste, but
I like your cup of tea, Sean. Come on.
Yeah, man, come
Okay.
on, don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
like
Pour
one
me
of
a
my
cup.
favorite. I love westerns, and one of my favorite westerns is Open Range, and the reason for that is it's actually a very. If you watch Open Range, it actually feels like an old western, like from the 50s or 60s. It doesn't feel like a neo-western or a revisionist western. Just has some very solid western themes that you would see in movies in the 50s. But the thing that Costner brings to it that makes it fresh, I believe, well, the characters are so strong, the performances are so strong, and it has a couple of like the most realistic, exciting gunfights I've ever seen in a western. Of course, gunfights are a dime a dozen in westerns, right? But with that film, he was able to bring a gunfight that felt completely real time and just felt, like you were there, and that's awesome.
You have to pick that movie, Sean, because otherwise I'm probably like never gonna think to watch it on my own.
Oh, wow. You've never seen it?
I've never seen it, and I don't know why. I have no good excuse. Actually, Costner's kind of a blind spot for me. I haven't seen Dances with Wolves. I saw when I was a kid. I don't remember it, and I haven't seen, I think, any of his other films.
Yeah,
Well, he's only
Costner made your underrated director list, Sean?
Yeah. We talked about Costner when we talked about underrated directors. He's actually only directed 3 films.
Okay.
2 of them are very, very good, and one of them is, in my opinion, not very good. But
The Postman.
The Postman, yeah.
Okay.
The Mailman.
But all 3 are very ambitious, and and Open Range is just like, you really get a sense when you watch Open Range, like Costner he understands the Western. He understands Westerns, like in the same way you get the sense that Clint Eastwood understands the Western when you watch Unforgiven, even though they're very different types of movies. Yeah,
that's what I think I kind of mistook Unforgiven for, or I'm sorry, Open Range for being when it came out, was like an attempt to try to be like an Unforgiven type of film.
No.
And
it's like the anti-Unforgiven. But go ahead.
Oh, that makes me want to watch it more. Like, I don't know. I definitely think you should pick that movie. So
okay,
I'll finally have no choice but to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, I love this weird publicity photo that you just brought up of 3 characters who should never be in a room together.
What? Speaking of which, what did you guys think about Scott Glenn's character?
I thought his character was pretty cool. I really like the performance. I just like how straight edge he is. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I liked it because as a writer, it's the polar opposite of what Jodie Foster's character Clarice needs in her life. That's the positive, and then the Hannibal is the negative. And she gets both. She gets a little bit of the best of both worlds, essentially.
Right.
Because remember, Hannibal is the most honest to her, but yet he's the one, even though he's on the good side, right? The good guy, he lies to her and kind of still treats her like, I remember that scene where, you really burned when I kind of told the sheriff and made you feel like you couldn't handle the situation, that kind of thing, and it also used her, to get to Hannibal. So it's that's why I took the picture up, because I put the picture up because I thought it was a perfect, like, once again, how the writing was so superb as to how, like, symbolically speaking, these 2 characters were very important for her development as the movie progressed.
The picture is basically like angel and devil on the shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
right. Yeah, you got it right in the head there, and it's she's trying to fill that void that was left behind by the death of her father, who was, like she said, the whole world to her when he was alive. And that flashback scene when she's sneaking up to him and he, plays with her and picks her up, and you see, like, even if it's just a small moment, you see, like, the kind of relationship they had, and it's very loving. And that's what she's looking for, essentially. And I think
there's only 2 flashback scenes, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah. There's one when she goes in the funeral. Yeah, when she goes in the casket, which is right after she was berated, by her this character. What's the character's name? I forget his name. And the character's name.
Marshall or Campbell or something.
Which scene are you talking about?
The funeral scene when they go to the funeral home. And he leaves with the sheriff, and then she walks into the room where the open casket is there, and she remembers the time when she saw her dad in the open casket.
Crawford is his name.
Crawford, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's that's another aspect I loved about the film is that those two characters in her life who help develop her in the story to get her to where she needs to get to, which is getting her FBI badge, essentially, on the surface of things, but deep down it's her completeness as a human being. So,
yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because so apparently when this book came out, the rights were bought immediately by Gene Hackman, who wanted to direct the film, and he wanted to play the Scott Glenn character, Crawford. And so I wonder if at the time, like, maybe he wanted the film to, like, maybe, you know, revolve around him. Maybe there wouldn't be a Clarice character, and it would just be Crawford and him hunting Buffalo Bill or something. I mean, I don't know. I know there wasn't a script written at that point, so I'm trying to figure out, like, why he would gravitate.
I think from what I remember is he hired a screenwriter, and he thought it was too violent. And the studio was like, well, we like the script and we want to make the script. And he was like, it's not my cup of tea. So they said, well, we're just going to go somewhere else. And they bought the rights from him, I think. I think they bought the rights from him. And he was like, okay, I'll just sell it back to you guys, and you guys can do whatever you want with it. Which I think was probably the better choice in hindsight, because we wouldn't have this movie if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you put Gene Hackman in the Crawford role in the Demme film, it's kind of a different movie. It's got a way different vibe. Hackman just brings a different kind of presence than Scott does. And I love Hackman; he's great. But I don't know, everything about this movie was just like a stroke of perfection. I wouldn't want to change a frame of it.
Gene Hackman, like, chews scenery, like everywhere he goes.
He does.
And Scott Glenn's kind of the opposite of that type of actor. Yeah. He's very
he seemed. The thing I like about his character is that he's very decent without being hokey about it. And I really like the scene where he talks about her after the funeral scene, and he's like, hey, I think I offended you. And she calls him out on like, well, they look to you to know how to act. And he's like, well, you have a good point there. And I don't know, there's something about their mentorship camaraderie that is it just makes the movie. It's one of the essential pieces that, and makes it work.
I agree, but yet it's made more interesting by Hannibal Lecter's suggestion that he's interested in Clarice sexually.
Yeah.
And then that kind of makes it more interesting, because then you're watching the Scott Glenn character more closely to see, well, is this guy, does he have good intentions? Is he kind of a creep? Is Hannibal Lecter right? And I think that makes that relationship more interesting as the movie goes on. Yeah.
There is, I don't know, there is some tension between them, I think, even at the end, when he says his goodbye. And you're right. There is I think the fact that we question it is that, not only at Hannibal's suggestion, but, all of the visual cues of the cuts to men leering at her, is another thing that makes you, very paranoid, as a kind of surrogate for her.
Speaking of which, that you mentioned that scene where they shake hands at the end of the film, which is a parallel scene to when Hannibal touches Clarice's finger.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Which of all the sort of gruesome and uncouth aspects of the movie, like, that might have been the creepiest part of the whole movie to me. when he touches her finger and you're just,
Yeah, that was her brush with death, because Hannibal was the symbol of death, the monster, and she was essentially flirting with death in a lot of ways.
Well,
it's interesting too, because obviously he kind of has a thing for her, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. But I did find it very funny that in, like, the next scene, not only has he sketched a full picture of Clarice holding a lamb, but he also ordered lamb chops for his dinner. Like,
super rare too.
He's all in on lambs at that point, which leads to, I think, I love every scene of this movie, but to me, the most effective scene or sequence or set piece is his escape. It is one of my all-time favorite set pieces. The entire sequence of like when he takes down the guards to you just wondering what is going on with the elevator, and like just the horror of each reveal as it comes until it culminates with him taking the face off. And it's just like it's so well executed.
What would filmmakers do without the elevator indicator on top of the elevator that tells you what floor the elevator's on? Like, I've read a lot that he was very directly pulling from Hitchcock for this movie, and you see that in something like the use of that elevator, indicator, or I think too, just like those slow walking shots. Demme said Roger Corman taught him that the most effective shot in cinema is a slow dolly shot of the camera moving towards a closed door. And he said he basically used that to establish the Hannibal Lecter shot, right? But there's several shots like that in this movie, and Hitchcock would have been all about that.
Definitely. And it's great. The thing I try to focus on whenever I watch the movie through the set piece is that it has to be as effective as it is, so that you don't think about how preposterous it is. Yeah. Like what he has to do, like he cuts a guy's face off and then throws him down an elevator shaft, and then he guts a guy and hangs him up as a butterfly, and he has time to do all of that and put the face, like, I don't know, it's a masterpiece what he accomplished. But you don't think about it while you're watching it. What is it?
A butterfly or an angel?
I
always thought it was an angel.
I think it could be an angel, but like I just interpret it as the whole, one of the big, themes of the movie is the transformation, the cocoon into the moth or the butterfly.
You're right. You're right about that.
I don't know. I felt like that was his way of saying goodbye to Clarice. Like, hey, look, here's a monument to our time together. I'm out. He constructed his masterpiece, basically. I don't know. It's an incredible scene. And I was reading about, some of the, little trivia about it. And I thought it was interesting that earlier in the film, Dr. Chilton, who is a huge creep, that guy is just probably the creepiest guy in the movie.
Baltimore can be quite a town with the right guide.
Oh God.
That scene.
Pure cringe, that guy.
His teeth in that scene.
Yeah. He's that guy's game for that in that performance. He's great. But it's funny because when he tells Clarice about the nurse that Hannibal attacked, which I thought it's very weird that he just has a picture of the aftermath handy. He's just like, oh, this is what happened to her. He's just got it like right in his pocket, like he just keeps it there, which is very bizarre. But he also mentions that Hannibal's pulse never elevated above 85. And so when they're in the ambulance and you think it's the guard who has this messed up face, it turns out to be Hannibal. The doctor says that his pulse is at 84, which is like a kind of a weird little, interesting.
Wow, I didn't catch that. Good catch. I didn't catch that.
I read about it. I would have probably never caught that, but I just thought that was like an interesting little tidbit that,
that is like, once again, going back to the superb writing of the screenplay and, it's little things like that audiences miss, but I think subconsciously they pick up on, and I think that's the reason why the film is revered even to this day. And well, let's talk about the metamorphosis, like the certain moths that Buffalo Bill used to put the cocoon down his victim's throat. And well, the character Buffalo Bill. Let's talk about Buffalo Bill, since we've sang the praises of Clarice and Hannibal. Let's take a close look at what Buffalo Bill has to offer on the table. What's his stake in this story? What's his tragedy, I guess you could say, in the story of Sounds and Rams?
It's one of those things that about this movie, especially because it was hit with some controversy when it came out for that character, and every time I watch the movie, I try to really pay attention to how they approach some of this material, and to me, I think it's done very tastefully, and his character's obviously like a singular character. He's a very you know, he's a very disturbed person, let's say. And you know, Demme gives him a lot of humanity, and like Hannibal's diagnosis of him, you know, basically saying like he's not a transsexual, but he thinks he is. He thinks that if he achieves what he's trying to achieve, it's going to make him not hate himself the way that he does. And yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, when he finally dies, spoiler alert, it's exhilarating, it's cathartic. And it's like, yeah, because he had to go. The guy had to be put down. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there is some level of, I don't know, like you just feel remorse that the guy never got the help that he needed, you know?
I mentioning his death, I like the fact that he actually, upon watching it last night, I realized for the first time that he actually kind of looked like an insect when the way he died.
True.
He was wearing the glasses, the night vision goggles, and had his hands up here, and he's just like he looked like an insect. He was dying like an insect, essentially.
I never thought about that, but that is a good point.
Yeah, so it was yeah, when I caught that, I was like, hey, that's kind of cool, like yeah, like totally like a bug, like a moth, I guess, on his back, and you know, feet up, or in this instance, hands up.
I was thinking about how goofy the night vision goggles looked, but now that you mention that, that makes way more sense. You know, yeah, considering his love of those bugs. Yeah, that's
and also just the horror aspect of this film is the fact that this character, when he's in his home, right, in his domain, he's, you know, wearing the wig, he has the song playing in the background, he's doing the dance in front of the camera, and then when Clarice shows up to his house and he, you know, goes back to answer the door, he looks and acts like a normal person, which made the whole thing terrifying. When I was watching last night, I was like, man, that truly is terrifying, that someone on the surface can look and act normal, but then when they're, you know, just little do you know, when they're in their domain, they're like freaking all out, you know, doing what they do, what they like, what they enjoy doing.
I think that's at the heart of what's terrifying about movies like this, and about this movie, which is reflected also in the last shot that runs through the entire credits, where you see Lecter stalking Chilton, right? And he's just another guy in this crowd, and he's out in the world, you know, to wreak his havoc. Blending in, you know, he's like biting a guy's face off, and then the next moment he's having an espresso in a cafe, you know?
Yeah, I'm having an old friend for dinner.
Oh, that was
that's got to be the best like final line in a movie. I can't think of anything that's better. But no, you know, going back to that scene, the confrontation. Yes, what Ferris is saying. It's a very bold choice, and it is perfectly executed. The fake out, the misdirect into the house. And I even remember like in my 20s kind of being like, all right, Demme, come on, you know, like, who do you think we are? Like, I don't know. I got kind of offended by it when I was putting on like my film studies hat. But like, I don't know. Then now I'm just like, the filmmaking is so well done that it works beautifully.
James, what kind of hat is a film studies hat? Is it a bowler? Is it a fedora?
I was actually thinking of a baseball cap that says, you know, film studies. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, just literally,
essentially, well, I guess what he's trying to say, Sean, is the film snobbiness that we all go through when we're, you know, studying film and learning all the trade secrets, you know, and we get to see things that and
you want to, like, I don't know, when you start to notice those things, you want to outsmart them, and then you realize like, oh, these people are like pros, they know what they're doing, and this is very hard to pull off. They just make it look effortless. You
know, I've seen the fake out, you know, the doorbell rings and then they answer, and I've seen that done in several other films. I've never seen it more effectively done than in this movie, because at first I thought, well, is this a fake out? But the longer it played out, the more I was like, no, they're there at his door. Like, oh, wow, they're really there. This is really going there. And I thought it would go somewhere else. And then, of course, it twists.
Yeah. And there's that moment where Crawford is like, he says Clarice, and that like, sudden realization, and you're kind of having the same reaction. And it's interesting to me because like the movie starts with her doing an exercise, like an exercise course, and she's alone. She's not doing it with anybody else. And I thought about this a lot watching the movie, like how much she does just on her own by herself. Just going out and doing the things that she needs to do and take care of. And at the very end, it leads up to her being alone at the end, confronting this monster. And that the whole entire scene with her in the house, like the way the tension just keeps escalating. It's like, it's obvious that this is her guy. And it's like, she kind of knows it from the minute he opens the door, but it's like, okay, how am I going to handle this? And like when he like, he drops the cards and then he runs, and she doesn't even shoot. It's just like, you're just like, you're so buying everything that she's doing and every choice. And the camera basically stays with her. And it all just leads up to that scene in the dark where he's feeling around in the dark. And it is so creepy. Like when his hand is just like kind of almost brushing up against her. And it is. It's just, he's milking the tension. And like the film doesn't waste any time. The minute he's shot, he dies his little bug death, and it cuts to her getting her badge, and that moment of finding out that, oh wait, like, this is never going to end,
My only regret about that scene where she gets her badge is that Chewbacca didn't get one.
Yeah. They should when they make a like the 10th or sequel of this, they should definitely.
Who didn't get one?
I think this is a Rise of Skywalker reference.
No, this is a New Hope reference. Julius, Sir Julius. It's when Han and Luke get their medal, but Chewbacca doesn't get one. So
I was trying to call it back to when he finally did get his medal, because hey, he got his medal. Okay.
Oh wait, no. Did you say Chewbacca, right? Sean? Did you say Chewbacca?
Yeah, Chewbacca.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I totally I misheard you. I thought you said a different name. That's why I was like, who? I didn't hear you say Chewbacca. That's my bad.
No. Sorry. I was trying to inject some very random humor.
I thought you were mentioning her roommate or her I'm assuming her FBI partner or whoever she was.
Her roommate. Chewbacca. That was her name. No, I'm just kidding.
Special Agent Baca.
While we're talking about this scene, you mentioned, when she walks into the kitchen area with him, I think it is, when she walks into the living room through the door. And then we see the shot of her coming in. We see the picture of the moth on the wall, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Then it cuts to a shot of her scanning the room. And just before she reaches that picture, because you're thinking, oh, she's going to see the moth picture and she's going to put it together. Just before she reaches that picture, she scans back. Cut away from that. And then we have the shot of what's right in front of her, which is like the spindles of thread and the moth coming and landing on the thread.
Ah, yeah.
And to me, I'm getting goosebumps describing it, because there's moments like that. If she just looked at that moth picture on the wall and went, what? He likes moths. He must be the guy. Like, that would have felt like unearned or like too simple of a conclusion to make. But the fact that it's with the thread and the moth, and it's the same type of moth that she pulled off the dead body. And it was like, that was that moment where it all comes together for her, and you're able to see it from her point of view. Again, it's her point of view.
Yeah, definitely. That whole scene.
The moth has almost like a skull shaped design on its back, which was very cool. Was a great choice by the director when they. I don't even know. Those are real moths, right? Those are like actual real moths that they use for the film.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, but someone commented that our department made the moths out of Tootsie Rolls, which I didn't know.
Ah,
yeah, ID Crisis. Yeah,
dropping the knowledge as he normally does. Yeah, actually, ID Crisis
sounds delicious.
ID Crisis. He mentioned something to me, and I did not Google it, so you'll be proud of me for not Googling it. He said there's a connection between Silence of the Lambs and Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh,
I didn't know what it was. and he told me that he knows and he wanted to share it with us. So if we do have time, ID Crisis, I'll have you on. You could tell us, but that's only if we have time. But we'll keep on keeping the show going.
Did Buffalo Bill live on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or
that would be something? Wouldn't it? I mean,
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is the location, right, where Buffalo Bill lives, and isn't that where Mr. Rogers lives as well? Pittsburgh, his location, or
I don't know. I can't wait to find out.
Did you guys ever watch Frasier?
No. Not really.
Frasier is one of my favorite sitcoms. And the guy, there's a guy in Frasier named Bulldog Briscoe. He plays one of the sports radio guys at Frasier's station, and he plays the insect expert that she goes to see. And anyway, you said Mr. Rogers, so there's a connection to Frasier too. I just wanted to make sure we knew that.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'd like to see a list of sitcoms that didn't reference Silence of the Lambs. I'm sure at like some point every single one of them has. But there's one observation I wanted to bring up. I had heard of this thing a couple weeks ago called nominative determinism, and basically the idea is that sometimes the sound of a person's name will hint at like what kind of occupation that person will have. Do you think at what point did Hannibal decide he wanted to be a cannibal? Because I have to wonder if the parents aren't like somewhat to blame here, where he was just like, I don't know what I should be. And then he heard about cannibalism and he was like, hey, that sounds like my name. I don't know. It's a very on the nose name choice that I even as a kid, I was like, that's a little dopey. I don't know, but right. I don't know. I've gotten so used to it now, but it's I don't know. It's a very, very funny thing.
It's a very scary sounding name.
It is
Hannibal Lecter. Like, I don't know why Lecter also has sort of a threatening feel to it. Like he's going to like lecture you from a lectern or something, but
that's true. It sounds a lot more threatening than Hannibal the Cannibal, which is like, I don't know. That's a little on the nose. I don't know. That's just my take on that. That might be my one little nitpick with this movie.
We never find out why they call Buffalo Bill, do we?
Yeah, she says it.
Yeah, she mentions it in the film. It was a joke. I think it was a joke. Yeah, it was a joke within the Pittsburgh PD due to the was it the character, right? Named Buffalo Bill?
I think someone just made a joke about the way he skinned his victims, and that was what led to his nickname. And it was like it was one of those like things that they were like kind of embarrassed to admit.
So all right, check this out, guys. So ID Crisis, I follow ID Crisis on Twitter, by the way. So he sent me a DM, and apparently he sent me a news article that says that Buffalo Bill's house from Silence of the Lambs becoming bed and breakfast place. The buyer of a Pennsylvania home that served as the filming location for Buffalo Bill's house in 1991's movie Silence of the Lambs is now being converted into a bed and breakfast. So there you go.
Weird.
Chris Rowan, a fellow cinephile, purchased the Periopolis house after it was listed for sale last year. Said he is filling the house with memorabilia from the Silence of the Lambs and doing renovations to make some of the inside match the interior shots that were filmed on the soundstage.
I want to stay in the well suite.
Yeah,
the well suite. And you have to make sure you put the lotion on its skin, Sean, or else it'll get the hose.
It gets the hose again. Yeah. Okay. That just reminded me. I think the most horrifying image in this entire movie for me, the one thing that made me cringe the most, was the nails on the rocks. And her realization that she's never getting out of there alive. Like when the light shines up, it is rough. It's probably the roughest part of the movie, at least for me. For me personally, it was the dancing scene in front of the camera. He's got good moves. I don't know.
I suffer from what doctors call the heebie-jeebies, and that definitely gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
The fingernails. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I caught a mild case myself. So another thing that is really interesting about this movie, and I think it says a lot about these other films that we've gone an hour in and we haven't brought them up, that like there's prequels and sequels and TV shows.
I didn't want to really talk about those, but you go ahead, James. This is your night, but go ahead.
I do think it's interesting that, you know, how popular this character became, and just, I don't know how much of a huge part of culture. Like, when Hannibal came out, like that was a big event, at least in my life. And like, I don't know, I remember it just being like really heavy in the culture at the moment it came out, and basically disappointed everybody when it did, and just proved that like you can't really, I don't know, lightning doesn't really strike twice with this kind of thing. It might work in a book, but like with this movie, I've seen the Michael Mann film, Manhunter, which I think is actually a really good film. But I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Silence of the Lambs.
Is Manhunter based on this same material or characters?
The book Red Dragon.
Brian Cox.
There's a
Brian
film.
Cox played Hannibal.
He plays
Lecter
Hannibal.
in that film.
It's a really like atmospheric film, like all Michael Mann films are. It's very cold. It doesn't have the same kind of like propulsive energy that that Silence of the Lambs has, and but it's still it's a great movie in its own right. It's just very different. And then you've got Red Dragon, you've got Hannibal, Hannibal Rising.
Do you see?
I don't even know what that's a reference to.
That's the reference to Manhunter.
Oh, it's been a while.
Well, anyway,
is that in Manhunter?
I think it's in Manhunter. Yeah, or is that in Red Dragon? I can't remember. Maybe
it might be in both. I don't know. I remember. It's so weird though, because I was looking at the timeline here, and like it was such a big deal that they finally got Anthony Hopkins to come back and do Hannibal. They weren't able to get Jodie Foster, which I mean should have been an indicator that the movie was a bad idea. But yeah, so they got Anthony Hopkins, and then like 1 year later they made Red Dragon. Like they went all in on you know, bringing him back. Everyone got their paycheck. Everyone got the, you know, the extra story on their house, so everyone was happy. But but I leading up to, I really love the Hannibal TV series. It ended a while ago. It only ran for 3 seasons, but it did something with the original Thomas Harris material that I thought was actually kind of interesting. Basically, taking a movie that would just spawn so many TV shows and procedurals that were very similar. Like it just became like woven into our popular culture in so many different ways. But then to kind of take that material and say, oh, let's stretch this out and make it a show. And like kind of sprinkle in aspects of the books here and there. Apparently, before the show was canceled, their plan was to actually cover the material in Silence of the Lambs. And even though I would never want to see a remake of Silence of the Lambs, I would love to see like at least that iteration with Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal, to explore, you know, this story with that, you know, iteration of the character. I'm guessing you guys have never seen the show.
No. I'm not a fan of exploitation, so I didn't watch anything outside Silence of the Lambs, because I feel like Silence of the Lambs, it's perfect in its own film. You don't need to expand on it. Hannibal, I was curious when Hannibal, you know, came out, the sequel. But then when I found out Jodie Foster wasn't coming back, I was like, I'm not gonna watch it, because what's the point? And I know Ridley Scott. You know, you guys know that I'm not a big fan of Ridley Scott. But if Jodie Foster would at least came back for the second one, I would have watched it, because I wanted to see that dynamic between these two actors again. And since she didn't come back, and nothing against Julianne Moore, because Julianne Moore is a fantastic actress in her own right, but Jodie Foster just brought Clarice to. I just feel like she's the quintessential Clarice, just like, you know, people say that you know, Sean Connery is the quintessential Bond in the James Bond series. So that's why I didn't want to bother at all with any of the Hannibal, I guess the Hannibal Lecter series, the film in the show.
That's definitely fair. I'm assuming, Sean, have you watched Hannibal and Hannibal Rising and everything but Silence of the Lambs?
Right. No. Yeah. Given the fact I'd never seen Silence of the Lambs, I had very little interest in those. But I did see that there was a TV show, and I am Mads Mikkelsen. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah. He's incredible in the show.
He's a really good actor. So I could see him doing really well in that role.
he brings he plays it very differently than Anthony Hopkins, and the vibe of it is very different. It's a very like surreal kind of show that seems like it draws a lot of like kind of Twin Peaks kind of vibes, and it's just like the gore in it is like very like artistic and beautiful. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a strange show. But yeah, like I go ahead.
Oh, I realized something about myself. I have a close friend who's always trying to get me to watch zombie movies. And I'm always like, her name's Teresa. Shout out to Teresa out there in West Virginia. But she, she'll be like, you have to watch this. You have to watch, you have to watch Anna and the Apocalypse. And I'm like, I kept telling her like, I don't like zombie movies. Like, I don't dig them. I don't get anything out of them. Like, they kind of repulse me, like just zombies, the idea of zombies. And
sure,
not to go totally wide here, but I kind of feel the same way about like gruesome serial killer movies or movies about crimes that can't be solved or like insane maniacs that can't be caught. Like I understand the lesson of them, quote unquote, like, oh, there's evil out in the world. But it's like, yeah, I already knew that, you know?
Yeah. Right. I see what you mean. Like you
like, did you
film
guys,
should
did you know
be escapism, right? Film should be escapism.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
No, like, did you know there's evil in the world? Did you know that there's evil in the world? It's like, right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
and whenever I forget, with it sometimes.
Whenever I forget, I look to movies like Silence of the Lambs to remind me. No, I do really respect that. I mean, I think that it's great to be open-minded, and I'm glad you watched the film and you absorbed it and you approached it, and appreciated it, even the things you didn't love about it. But yeah, I mean, I can completely understand that, especially considering, the state of things. Like sometimes you don't want to watch a feel bad movie. And it's funny. Yeah, my wife didn't want to watch the movie with me. And, I was like, why? This movie's so great. And she's just like, it's awful. And I'm like, how could you say that about Silence of the Lambs? She's like, it just makes me feel terrible. And I'm like, oh, because it's such a great movie. It's so effective. Yeah, great. Right. Don't watch it with me then. Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's just, it's so good. You're like, I can't handle it. So yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, it's great, but you got to be in the right mood for it.
I'm glad I watched it. I mean, I'm glad we're doing this because, at least once a week I'm watching sometimes something I haven't seen before. We're all doing our homework. We're comparing notes. It's just a great exercise. So it wasn't a complaint at all. Just, I realized when I watched this movie, like, oh yeah, I don't really like serial killer movies and I don't like zombie movies. So add that to the list,
Well, I'm definitely going to pick Dawn of the Dead next time. The Snyder version, by the way.
You know what? Okay, actually, when you said Dawn of the Dead, I was like, okay, I would give that a shot, but not the Snyder version.
The Dawn of the Dead Snyder version is pretty good. I just got to say that for the record.
That's just like the Snyder version of everything is good.
It's just faster and more kinetic, for that version anyway. I think that was the first. Wasn't that the first zombie movie where zombies ran and chased you, like actually sprinted to get you? Was that the first one?
I think so. That might have been the gimmick with that movie. They're like, they run now. Hey,
you know what? It worked. It worked for me because I was fucking shitting bricks when I watched that film in the theater.
I actually haven't seen that movie since it came out. And I hadn't seen the original Dawn of the Dead when I saw it. And I subsequently saw the Romero film and I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't need to think about the Snyder version ever again. But I remember liking it. I thought it was solid. It was just like, oh, wait, why did they remake this? Like the movie's a classic. I do remember the Jay Leno scene though. That is, yeah. For some reason, I still remember that. Maybe it's a great movie. Maybe I should rewatch it.
It's a good popcorn movie. It's not the best, obviously it's Snyder, so you're gonna get like I guess the more superficial aspect of the film. You're not gonna get anything out of it other than just popcorn candy. So just maybe just keep that in mind when you watch it again, James.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like the Snyder version of everything, to be honest. So So yeah,
Rika just yes, Ferris. I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah, can't wait to see that. All 4 hours of it. I wish it was. Honestly, my only complaint right now is I wish it was longer. Why not go 5 at this point?
Why not? Right?
Why not just keep making it while we're watching it and just let it never end?
Can we just, they're trying to invent something right now where they can just plug a computer into Zack Snyder's head and he can just like think out the movie, and then your dream would come true. It would just never ever end.
That's the kind of world I want to live in, honestly. Yeah, I want nothing more. Yeah,
a great world to live in.
It'd be a bleak one, but yeah, it'd be great.
Well, I think that sums up, that covers everything about Silence of the Lambs. So unless you guys have any more thoughts on the film or the story or anything in the matter?
I mean, I don't know. I think that you could go, I don't know, you could like go through every single detail of this movie and find something great about it. But yeah, I mean, I think we covered everything. It's a great movie. I don't know. What's your guys' ratings? I give this movie a 10. I couldn't possibly give it anything lower.
I also give it a 10 because, like I said, it's solid from beginning to end. You cheer for Clarice. You actually like Hannibal Lecter, even though he is a monster. But there's a sophistication to the character that actually makes him likable. And yeah, the bad guy needed to die, and he died in the end. So it was a perfect package. It was almost, I don't want to say a perfect movie, but it was definitely well produced, and everything just fell into place. Everything was just right. Like, there you go, Ferris. Yeah, perfectly. You put the words right in my mouth. Flawless filmmaking. Absolutely, 100%. So a 10 for me.
I give it an 8 out of 10.
I respect that.
That's good. That's fair.
That's great. Is that like an enthusiasm meter? Just like that's the level of enthusiasm you feel towards it?
Well, in my rating system, in my personal rating system, like, I have to think the film's really, really well done and well made and everything, but I also have to like it a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
And or I guess enjoy it. So I'd say for me, that's a really high rating. Like, I really respect this movie. I'm glad I was able to finally watch it. I don't imagine I'll watch it again, but I give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, so I did think of one thing I wanted to say before we move on, and I just want to focus a little bit on Demme, because I think this guy is incredible. I think he's also a little underrated. I really want to go back and rewatch some of his movies, and I think it's such a testament to his legacy as a filmmaker that he made a movie like Silence of the Lambs, and I don't even know if it's my favorite Demme film. Like, it's like the greatest serial killer film ever made, one of the top horror movies, and yet, like, I think I prefer Stop Making Sense, which couldn't be a more different film. It's a concert movie, but like few films like are as life affirming as watching Stop Making Sense. And I mean, he's made Something Wild, which is just, again, you couldn't make a more different film than Silence of the Lambs. And he's made a bunch of other solid movies.
You haven't seen Philadelphia?
I've seen Philadelphia. It's a solid movie. Good movie.
Yeah, fantastic film.
And also, this is a guy that, after receiving some criticism for his portrayal of the Buffalo Bill character and feeling like remorse that people would even, interpret that he was trying to demonize, a community of people, he made Philadelphia as his response to that. Like, oh, I want to actually get out there and make a movie that has a message about that issue. And it's not a movie that I love, but I think that's a really admirable thing to do, especially when you just won an Oscar and you can make any movie you want to. You're like, oh, I'm going to make Philadelphia then, Also, another interesting thing about him is that I don't think he ever really worked with the same actors twice. Like, he didn't care about capturing a formula and like trying to recapture that every time out. He never made another serial killer movie. He never worked with Anthony Hopkins again. Never worked with Jodie Foster, and I think it's just because he wanted to make a different kind of movie every time out. And every one of his films is, very versatile filmmaker who made a lot of different kinds of movies.
I plan to check out some more of his movies because I noticed in his filmography that he's versatile, like you said, that it'll be a documentary and then a family drama, a thriller, so I definitely want to see more of his films.
Is Jonathan Demme, is he related to Ted Demme, the one who directed Blow? with Johnny Depp, or is that different Demme? Is that they're not even related?
It's been so long, I've forgotten. You'd think their names are. How many Demmes are there?
Yeah, exactly.
Nephew.
I'm not sure. Nephew. Okay. Yeah.
Ted Demme is Jonathan Demme's nephew.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. There you go. All right. Well, guys, that's I think that's about wraps it up. Do we have time? Do we have time for calls or no? We're 9:20. I know you guys. Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I heard a little birdie told me that Wild About 88 wanted to give his take. He's got a hot take, and he's ready to dish it out.
All right. Hold on. Let me put the link on the chat. ID Crisis might join us too.
Uh-oh.
Well,
wow.
James, it's our show now. Finally got rid of that guy.
Yeah. So how's it going?
Good. Is that a Captain America shirt you're wearing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I respect
Here I am. Whoa.
All right. we didn't have long. Okay.
I was like, what the hell happened? All right. Sorry about
we were
that.
We were really vamping there. We were talking about the shirt.
I hit open link on a new tab, and I was like, what happened? Oh crap, what'd I do? All right, here you go. So as I was saying, ID Crisis might join us because I'm actually curious to know what the connection is with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So Wild About 88, if you want to come on. And we'll try to keep it short, guys, because I know James and Sean and also myself, we have some things to do, so we'll try to keep it short and sweet. But overall, yeah, this is a great choice. Thank you, James, for recommending it. And we'll talk about what the next week's pick will be once we're done with the guests. So ID Crisis, what's up, ID Crisis? How you doing, dude?
What's going on?
Get this. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. I'm actually not on my normal shift, so I was able to hang out at home here.
Nice.
Yeah.
B-Rad's on too.
And B-Rad, how's it going, B-Rad?
B-Rad.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, man. Good.
Hey.
How you doing?
Okay.
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Just enjoying the show as always at 9:15 when I get out of work. Thank you.
All right, so we'll ID Crisis, we'll get to you second. B-Rad, what's your hot take? I'm curious to know what your hot take is for Silence of the Lambs.
Well, I didn't have the chance to hear what you guys said, so you might have brought this up already. I don't know. But it's kind of weird. It's called Silence of the Lambs because there's no lambs in it, you know? And then
It's a good observation.
That is a very good observation. You're absolutely, and we did not talk about that, but yeah, go on. I'm curious to know.
And I'm sure lambs means something else than an animal, but and when I watched it again this past week, it felt a lot different than I remember watching it years ago, but it actually felt like a completely different movie. Because I think it's, I don't think it's one of Scorsese's best movies. Like I mean, Aviator's my favorite. I also like Hugo. But
wait a minute. Wait, are you messing with us, or are you being serious?
No, Adam Driver and Spider-Man, weren't they in them? And I thought it was about a serial killer, but it was about some like missionaries in Japan.
No, that's the film Silence.
Oh man, I watched the wrong movie.
It is a bit. It's a bit. and every one of us got sucked in.
I admire your commitment to that bit. That was great. That was great.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me do the bit anyway, guys.
We did. I just want to say though, we did talk off mic last week about how funny it would be if we went from Blast of Silence to Silence of the Lambs to just Silence. So we actually did talk about this. It did come up. So that's great. I appreciate it.
Well, maybe that's why I thought of it, because I thought, I don't even know why. Maybe I was listening. I don't know if you guys mentioned that during the show. Maybe
no, it was off mic.
Oh, okay, maybe silence came up in some way, but anyway, thanks for humoring my dad jokes over here.
Yeah,
it was
keep 'em
great.
coming.
It was one of the greatest dad jokes I ever heard.
Yeah, keep them coming.
I love it.
Oh,
I love
will.
it. You actually had me. You actually had me going there for a second. I got to be real with you. You actually had
I
me
love that.
going.
I love James and Julia's face. They're like, what?
No, I was actually, for a split second before I thought it was a bit, I was horrified because I didn't want to be the one to be like, bro, it wasn't Scorsese who made Silence of the Lambs. And no one wants to be that guy. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm okay being that guy.
I wanted. That's why I wanted to know how long it would take. But yeah, I was curious what you guys thought. Or have you guys seen? I've just seen a commercial. I haven't seen the actual show, and it's a network show, so I'm sure it's not going to be that great. But they're making this Clarice show. Have you heard about this?
Yeah,
I heard about it.
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
maybe
I was
James could
curious
speak
how
to that.
If any of you had seen it.
No,
I haven't seen it. No.
I think that what we did talk about on the show was that the creators of the show Hannibal, which I think is it has a cult following, but I think it is a really underrated show. I like it a lot. It's not part of my Silence of the Lambs like headcanon. It's very much a separate universe. But I was really disappointed because that was a network show and it was very daring for being a network show. And it got canceled before they were able to cover like the Silence of the Lambs portion of the story. And I really wanted to see what their take was going to be on like adapting that for television. And so I'm just bummed that they decided to like scrap that show and then create what sounds like a very like by the book, procedural on network TV. And and that's what the reviews have said so far is that it's just, it's like, doesn't bring anything new to the table, which just sounds very disappointing.
My daughter and wife, a lot of times I like to watch like the great British baker cooking shows and stuff like that. But I always really dug the scenes in Hannibal where he's preparing a meal.
Oh, you've watched the show?
Oh yeah, he's really definitely.
Oh my God, they're beautiful. Yes.
The reason why I watched the show is because Mads Mikkelsen and Hugh Dancy were both two of King Arthur's knights in Anton Fuqua's version of King Arthur.
Oh, okay.
They had worked together before, and I liked Mads Mikkelsen's character there. He was the one guy who was like, if you've seen it, he was like turning killing into an art. You know what I mean? He like took his time, and I'm like, that's really cool. And now this other dude playing with knives and cutting up God knows what, brains, liver, and but the whoever's hands they were just like deft. It was almost like watching a magician do sleight of hand.
It's a mesmerizing show. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it. And that's like why I'm saying like it's not Silence of the Lambs. It couldn't be farther from that. Like it's very much its own thing and
super smart too. And it just to not to go off on a tangent, but there was one episode where there was a he's advising on catching other serial killers, and there's the one guy who was a cellist, and he was making his cello strings not out of.
I remember this,
right?
Yeah,
and just to say, like, how you have those moments in your life where you're like, there's something that you realize that you didn't know that everybody knew, and you're just finding it out now. That I didn't know that what a theremin was. You know what I mean? And Sean would probably. It looks like you're familiar with music, judging by your background. But I didn't know what it was, and it's that woo, that instrument that you don't touch anything on, but it makes that sound like in the opening. And I didn't know it was called a theremin. So he's having this back and forth with this cellist, this teacher. He's teaching cello. He's making his own string out of human intestines, and they go through the whole process of stretching it out and all that stuff. And they have this conversation. He goes, what instrument do you play? And he says, I play the theremin. And I was like, that's freaking brilliant. In other words, he's like, not only do I know who you are, but I've got absolutely no need for you to offer me anything. Like nothing that you do I have any use for whatsoever. I don't even come anywhere near strings. You know what I mean? Like the thing that I play, I don't even touch. And it was just this real subtle part of this, you know, this mental back and forth, this chess game. You know, where he's like, I'm not playing the game that you think I'm playing something else. But do you guys want the big Mr. Rogers reveal?
Definitely.
Okay, hold on a second, and I'll give you. Okay. You want to share my screen? I'll pull it up.
Okay.
You guys remember this guy? Chef Rocket. Chef Rocket was one of the guys in the neighborhood that Mr. Rogers would go visit. Okay, and he's, you know, he's like the soda jerk there, and it was like a common thing, you know. He'd talk to people that played music, and you see Chef Rocket there, and Chef Rocket was a main part of the show. He's there with what's her name? Julia Childs. Okay, you see Chef Rocket. All right, ready? There's Chef Rocket.
No.
Oh no.
Are you serious?
His only speaking part in the whole movie. Hi.
Wow.
So I wonder if he is the same character in Silence of the Lambs. I wonder if it's the chef guy himself. Like he did something bad and he ended up.
You know what? That's not a bad theory. I mean, we don't know. Bring it back. We don't know what's in all that. All those baked goods. You know, that could be, what is that? 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pot.
This is blowing my mind.
And then graduated to humans. And who knows what's in those ingredients? Who knows what he put in that frosting?
Maybe he got put in jail for his fashion sense.
Well, it was the 70s. You could get away with a lot.
Maximum security mental institution
for
his wardrobe choices.
For his,
and that picture too, that picture of him going shh.
Quiet.
Let me see.
Wow, that's a great piece of trivia right there. I would have never have ever guessed that in a million years. Never.
I sent you. I could probably find if I go to Twitter, but I sent you something else that had to do with, or did I? Oh, the link didn't go across. There's another filming location in Canonsburg out where I actually would pass by it every day if it was still standing, but it's been torn down since then. But it is the setting for the Baltimore State Hospital research, where they're keeping
where Clarice shows up to meet Hannibal Lecter for the first time.
Yes, and hopefully I can get the words out here the right way, and I'll have it's this place right here. Okay. This place right here is one exit away from me. Now
Cool.
It's not there anymore. They had torn it down, but this was actually a mental institution at the time. In fact, there's one here, and there's another one over just a couple of miles in the other direction called Mayview, and they're both gone. And I sometimes wonder if it's, like maybe we tore these down too soon. Have you been outside lately? You know what I'm saying? They walk among us. Here's a great picture of it. This is what it looked like before it came down. You see all the windows are empty and everything like that, but it's haunting. Oh, wow. Yeah, you guys want to see a really good horror movie that's really well done and independent, and that also incorporates an insane asylum. I cannot recommend Session 9 enough.
I've heard about that film. I've never gotten around to it, but
it's really good. But
it has quite a following.
Yeah, we might do it for Halloween. Maybe.
Yeah, and
that'd be a fitting if it's.
But I'm with Sean. I didn't try to get into Silence of the Lambs. I think it hadn't been out on cable for like 3 months before I finally gave it a shot, because everybody had finally shut up about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's all this hype surrounding it. It's one of the things that made me not appreciate the first Batman movie, because they're like, "That's going to be amazing," and it was awesome. I'm watching. I'm like, he can't even turn his head.
I'm seeing a pattern. Here. ID Crisis. It all goes back to that original Batman and how you really got to
do that before. Did I do that before? It's the hype. Yeah, I can't stand the hype.
Yeah.
I still can't listen to the.
You said last time you were like, I still can't watch that movie.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm turning into my dad. I'm bringing up the same old joke over and over again. Yeah.
Well, that's actually why I like the latest Wonder Woman movie, because everyone told me how bad it was, and I just went in with no expectation, and I thought, oh, that was fine.
That's an odd market tactic, isn't it?
That's a good outlook. You're right. That's actually a very good outlook right there.
And I did want to bring up one thing. ID Crisis had mentioned how turning killing into an art form, right? From the Hannibal's show. But it made me wonder, have you guys seen the Mortal Kombat trailer?
I have seen it. I'm so excited about it. So excited about it.
I mean, that is making killing into an art form right there.
Well, with the finishing moves and the fatalities and
I saw
it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I was watching it on my phone. I'm going to have to see it again on like my computer screen here.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah,
well,
we have an echo for some reason.
It's probably me.
But I saw the trailer. It looked so dumb, and
how
it
dare
looks
you?
terrible and dumb, and I'll go see it. Basically,
people are allowed to say what they like. People are allowed to say that they don't like Ridley Scott.
That's true. That's true.
You know.
Okay.
All right.
Julio,
I think he's good in some movies. I don't think he's good in everything.
Go ahead.
The great thing about America, Julio, you can be wrong, and it's okay.
You're right, but I'm not wrong.
This echo is really tripping me out. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from. It's not me because I have my headphones on.
Well, it might be for you guys, but
I just muted myself.
I will see you next week. Take care.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Be Red.
Always good to have you. Bring some of those dad jokes.
I'm
still getting
I think. Are you really? Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Maybe we should call it.
Okay. Well, ID Crisis, thanks for showing up. We're going to call it a night. Join us again next week. So what do you think, guys? Next week, do you want to pull the trigger?
I think we should. The echo's gone. Okay. Yeah.
Isn't Julius picking for next week? Isn't it his turn?
He certainly is.
Well, the joke that we talked about just now about the silence. I was thinking, okay, if you want to push, if you want to pull the trigger and just go with silence, so we can keep the theme going.
Wait. This has to be a joke. I'm actually excited about the movie that you're gonna choose.
No. The last movie was what was it again? The last movie.
Blast of Silence.
Blast of Silence. Silence of the Lambs. So let's screw it. Let's end it with Silence. So next week's movie will be Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese. And then when we move the channel to the new YouTube channel, then we'll do Network. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
Sounds great.
No, that's awesome.
Okay.
Silence is, really ripe for discussion. You could discuss that movie for hours and hours. So it'll be
I haven't seen it. So I'm excited to watch it because for a while there, I was very I kind of fell out of love with cinema a little bit because I don't like to be burned when you burn me too many times. Well, you pay $12-15 for a movie ticket and you go watch the film and it's not great and you spent $15 for nothing. When I could have just waited a month or two to rent it for $3 and not feel too bad watching a terrible movie for $3 as opposed to watching a terrible movie for $15. So I kind of I'm kind of tired of it. I love the theater, but I just fell out of love. So I stopped watching films almost completely. So I'm excited to watch this one because it's a Scorsese film. When it comes to Scorsese making his period pieces, or things that explore his religious faith, like with Catholicism and whatnot, I always it's a hit or miss for me. So if you're telling me it's a great film and I've also heard great things about it, then I'm pretty confident it's going to be a great film to watch. So I'm looking forward to it and we'll discuss about it.
I'd say it's a great film. James, would you say it's a great film?
I am going to withhold my opinion until.
Okay, good job, good.
But I do. Okay, so wait. So Sean? Are you leading that next week, or is that we're going to do this, or what?
What do you think, Julius?
I don't think any one person shouldn't lead it, since we all agreed to it, and
Cool. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the theme going of silence. So come next week, guys, for the film Silence, and it's gonna be probably gonna be a very interesting conversation and a lot to talk about for next week's show.
Heavy conversation.
Yeah, and once again, guys, don't forget that the new YouTube channel will be up soon, and so it's talking_cinema. If you search that on YouTube, you'll probably find it. There is nothing uploaded yet, but if you do find it, subscribe to the channel. Get ready, because we're gonna have big plans for this channel. So subscribe to it, and hopefully down the line, we'll be able to open up suggestions from you guys. Suggestions of films that maybe you guys will want us to review and talk about and break down like we did in today's show. So watch out for that. Sean, you got something to say?
I got one more thing to say, which is there's actually a 2019 film called The Silence. So, and there's several other silence titles on IMDb. So if we just want to make this the silence show, I think.
Well, I mean, that would lead to us having to record an episode where we just don't talk and all you hear is silence.
Yeah,
that would have to be the series finale, probably. Yeah.
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, with that said, Silence of the Lambs, if you guys have not seen it, watch it. It's a classic, and it's you won't be disappointed. Just make sure there are no kids around when you are watching the film, because it isn't a film for children, and no child should watch the film until they're of age. Other than that, any last things you guys want to say before we call it a night? Any last words?
Yeah, you're old enough to watch Silence when you can actually stay awake through it. So I think that'll be a little sneak preview for next week.
Sean, any last words?
I might revisit Kundun also before we discuss Silence, because I saw Kundun once like 15, 20 years ago, and I think that the two movies have some things in common. So.
Yeah.
Ferris said something very nice. We'll support all three of you in all projects. Thank you, Ferris, for those kind words. We really
Thanks for
appreciate
tuning in.
Your support. And if you have friends or colleagues that are also cinephiles, hey, let them know about the show. Tell them to check it out. It's a good show. We're going to keep on expanding, and so hopefully you guys will join us in that journey, because it's going to be a fun ride. So with that said, guys, have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you next week for the film Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Kylo Ren and
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man.
And Qui-Gon Jinn.
And Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, dude.
It's an all-star cast, ladies and gentlemen. So good night, guys. And we'll see you next Friday.